Hey, Lauren here. All right, let's answer. Now it's time for me to be in the hot seat and answer that question that I just proposed to founders that I like to ask. And that is the biggest obstacle you have had to face, both professional and personal. And I will start with my professional. And it happened about 2 years in to running LD Studios, a Ruby on Rails company that I have now stepped down on and passed the baton to a brilliant new CEO. Who's doing great things with the company. However, 2 years in, one of my goals with that company was to build it to $1 million, and which we were able to do within about 2 years. But what's the saying on what goes up must come down, and what goes up fast is also probably going to come down just as fast. And so what happens with LD Studios, it was October of I don't remember the year, but it was the second full year of LD Studios, third year. So I guess it was 2016 that we had to deal with my biggest business learning experience and overcoming, and the fact that all the other obstacles I've faced since then don't even remotely compare, and I'm not faced by much anymore. And that's the reason, is because I had a $1 billion company shove some things in my face, and they wanted to compete in a not fair and open market, and they decided to threaten to inundate us with lawsuits in order to get us to stop working for a client of ours. However, because we were the weakest link, we were the smallest business, our client could have probably defended themselves. They were at about the $100 million range for their business. LD Studios was at the $1 million phase, and this company in Manhattan, the Southern District of New York, it was at the time a $1.4 billion holding company with a B, and they were coming after a little $1 million Ruby on Rails development shop. And well, I've never been so scared because they weren't just threatening to take my business away. They could have taken everything from me. And at the time I was also 5 months pregnant with my second child, which, it all goes into the equation. But also at that time, we had a client churn, but it was a very low client churn, maybe 20% or so every year. But for whatever reason, just the floodgates open, and we were in the middle of a 90% client churn over 6 months. And a lot of it was just, things were just hitting the fan. Our customers were going out of business. It was just a calamity of errors. All at the same time, we were trying to, get that investment group to pay, which also might be another reason why I don't really like venture capitalists, or I just see what happens when investors come in and can rip apart companies. And even though I am an investor, I have some issues with banks sometimes, and this might be the start of it, because they wanted to threaten us. Instead of playing in a fair and open market, they wanted to inundate us with legal fees, so we weren't able to perform the job that we did quite well at. And then with that 90% client churn, I wanted to do everything in my power to keep my team, but I actually ended up, at the time I had 8 employees, and I lost I lost everybody over probably, the churn was about 6 months, but I probably lost all the employees over 4 months, and it was just poor timing, I would say, on everything. And it was more of a cluster or a calamity of errors, or I like to call it. And the best thing is LD Studios did survive. It did take 6 months to kind of recoup, and we did end up losing our team. We had a 90% client churn. We were able to get it back. We didn't back in, I think now we're in 2017, we didn't get it back to that $1 million zone. We got it just slightly under. I think it was between 800,000 and 900,000. But the good thing that came out of it is the business started to be a lot more profitable, a lot less waste, because I had to cut everything, and I didn't reinvest in some of the items that I guess I considered investments, which really weren't, or wasting money. So my profitability actually tripled then when we did that kind of rebirth, if you will, which is kind of the point. And I think I had lost that, being so focused on growing, that I kind of forgot about my bottom line. My top line was looking good, bottom line not so much. All All right, so I focus too much on the top line and not so much on the bottom line. Now I care more about my bottom line. So that was probably the biggest business adversity that I've had to deal with, and it happened all within, a 6-month time period, which basically culminated with me having my son. But everything seemed to mostly get good, except when I went into labor. I was working while I was in active labor. But within a month after he was born, kind of the tides had turned and we had gotten LD Studios back on track. So that is my biggest business lesson, or the biggest obstacle that I have overcome from a business standpoint to date. And so now when I look at little things, I'm just like, it's not like you're a $1 billion company threatening to crush me in the Southern District of New York right now, because that district scares me. And that's all I'll say about that. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you ever have any questions, my door is always open.